Hi everyone, my name's James. Lovely to see you all here, still hanging in there for the rest of the day. I don't know if you've seen many of the talks today, but it sounds like there's been a great lineup. And I'm very curious, when you saw this title, what made you want to join this talk? Like, is there anything that title means to you? Can I get some examples from anybody? Okay, thank you both for your thoughts. Just to address the first one, with confidence, especially when changing types of jobs, going from employed to self-employed, it can be a big move. So hopefully some of the ideas in this will help with that and the feelings that come with being confident. And with the different skill sets, unfortunately, skill sets will change, and we can't do anything about that, really. We can work with what we've got and see how skills can be transferable. That'll be another part that I'll talk about. Okay, perhaps some of you others that joined have some thoughts along these lines, maybe? Particularly with the introduction of AI and changing the types of jobs, taking away some jobs. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is predicted to take away a lot of jobs, so we need to be open to the idea, okay, I might need to change career. What I'm studying now, by the time I finished, it doesn't mean it'll be a waste of time, but knowing how can I use that, what can I take from that? What I will say just briefly is just the focus on skills instead of qualifications and experience, okay? If there's one thing you remember from today, let it be, okay, what skills have I got from doing this? And what skills can I use in the future? Because the skills won't change. Though we will talk about some top skills that our employers are looking for from 2024 onwards. I'll just give you 5 key takeaways. And first of all, we'll talk about mindset and how that can help us, particularly with confidence and resilience. Having an impact. So what employers will be looking for in the future when it is more competitive. With AI, we are going to have a bit more competition, but there will also be new jobs that open up as a result. In-demand skills that we will have moving forward, how you can utilize those in your position now or how we can develop those. The importance of networking. Can you just raise your hand if you dislike networking? Raise your hand if you don't like networking. Oh wow, just me and you. Just 2. That's good, because a lot of people don't enjoy it, but there are significant benefits from it. The fact that you enjoy it, it won't be a problem for you, but it will be still important. And finally, self-care. It is tough going self-employed. It's tough moving into a job market where you're a bit uncertain. It's tough when you do a degree or a master's and then you realize, oh, what am I going to do with this? I won't say it's easy, but what we can do to just help us with that process, building resilience. So what do we mean by mindset? I'm sure you've seen this word before. Can perhaps just get you to shout out if you like. I love that answer with the detail of, the 2 differences that we'll talk about. There's 2 types of mindset that we talk about. And particularly, they are growth mindset and fixed mindset. You may have come across these terms before. Where did this idea come from? A doctor called Carol Dweck did a lot of research, mainly in universities, but has extended it to include businesses as well. And what they're finding is the benefits of a growth mindset far outweigh those of a fixed mindset. How do we know if we got a fixed mindset? So, mentioned already, if you find something difficult, we run away from it or avoid it, or make excuses for not doing it. Perhaps when people give us feedback, we take it as criticism or blame, and we tend to not listen. Maybe you have a friend or someone in work who gets a job or a promotion, and you start to feel that you need to do better, and you take it as a threat. Not wanting to make mistakes, so not trying new things because you might make mistakes. That can be another common problem. So, do we have any perfectionists in here? I'm a recovering perfectionist. Okay, so it's the idea of, you can imagine when you try to get things perfect. And it's not always possible. How much anxiety comes with that, especially things like going self-employed or going into a new field that we don't know much about, and how that can affect us. Perhaps giving up easily on a task, or perhaps you tried to do a new course or tried to change jobs, applying for jobs. I understand there's a lot of people out there today applying to jobs in a new field and changing careers. I've done that myself as well. But some people give up very quickly and perhaps go back to the same job. Or they stay put because it can be easier sometimes. Easier in the short term, more difficult in the long term. The idea that we are naturally born with certain skills. So you might think someone is a leader, right, just from birth. It is possible to develop most skills. Okay, some people might have a little bit a better chance to some degree, but knowing that any skills that we talk about today, don't be afraid of them. Give them a go. All skills can be learnt, okay? So on the other hand, when we've got a growth mindset, what might that look like? So at first, we're avoiding challenges. So what might this look like? Opposite of avoid? Embrace, yeah? Or okay, right? Or rise to challenges. So, rather than seeing it as a problem, see it as a chance for you to develop in some way, okay? New skills do require effort, okay? You might see a skill that I'll mention in the next section, a top 5 skill, and think, I have no idea about that. Yes, some skills will take time, particularly things to do with AI and technology. We can avoid them if we want, but it will be more difficult for us in the long term, and we limit ourselves. Instead of being threatened by people's success, be inspired, okay? Know that, okay, they got this job, so, there's no reason I can't do better and try and strive and be better. It's much easier than just staying jealous, right, and being envious. That's much more difficult to deal with in the long term, okay? And of course, supporting each other. People are such a good resource for supporting each other, and we need inspiration to try better. It's linked to our motivation. You might think it's not important now, but over the course of your career, people already change careers 2 or 3 times in their life on average. That's predicted to increase to 5 or 6 times. So being inspired by other people is what we need sometimes. Being welcome to criticism. How do we know if we're good at something? Think of any skill that you do right now. How do you know if you're any good? You need somebody to tell you, right? Okay, some people are not very good at giving feedback, but what we can do is we can take some feedback instead of criticism, because nobody likes to be criticized. We get defensive, we ignore it, we stop listening. But if we are open to it, okay, they said that. They will tell us about things that we cannot see, our blind spots. And that's some of the most useful feedback you'll ever get. You can reflect on yourself, which I highly recommend, but There's only so much you can do. You will never see your blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. So sometimes you need people to tell you things. It might not be easy to receive it, but if you focus on, okay, how can I be better from that, then it will be a bit easier. The biggest mistakes you make, right? That's where you learn some of the most important things. So we shouldn't be put off by mistakes. The idea that our more and more neuroscience is proving that our brains can still function very well and adapt and learn new things into late life. There might be the idea, because I'm too old to learn that. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks, right? But that's far from true. It was thought a long time ago, but there was no research to actually prove it. Okay, so ideally what we need is 3 things from here, okay? Noticing when you're in a fixed mindset. It happens to us all. I find myself in a fixed mindset at times. But once I notice, I quickly remember, okay, no good being stuck here. What I can do, I can move to a growth one. It might not be easy, but it's definitely more beneficial to you, right? Reframing them, as you can see here, instead of being jealous, admire people and see it as a chance for you to be better. And being solution-focused instead of problem-focused, right? The more you focus on problems, the more that you see problems, right? And the more you focus on solutions, the more you see them. That's what Carol Dweck has found in a lot of her research. The more that you see opportunities, the better that you'll be at seeing them. They might not be clear now, but if you start looking for them now, then they will be much easier. Okay, moving on to point number 2. How can I impress employers in a competitive job market? Again, if you want to shout out at all. I don't know if you wanted to just sit and listen. That's okay if you do. Oh, sorry, let's go over. Okay, right. Where might you get that skill set, or what skill set? I mean, it's a great idea, yeah. With the right skill set. Okay, I think I asked you a difficult question. Okay, what else? No, I like the way you've reframed that, and how can they impress you? You will have choices at times and have to make those. And again, yeah, skill sets are crucial, and yeah, uniqueness. What I had noticed today doing the one-to-one support, a lot of people had a lot of the same skills on their CV. While that's likely, for example, communication is going to be a skill in a lot of jobs, what you need to remember is think of the hiring manager or recruiter and think, everybody in this room said they have good communication skills, right? How am I going to pick from them? So it's being able to, as we'll talk a bit later, just being able to just show, okay, uniqueness, that I can do it a bit more better than this person, okay? At the back. Yeah, I'd be careful with the idea of, I know strengths, skills that we've practiced a lot. But if we just assume, okay, I'm strong at this and then I'm weak at this, then we go back to the fixed mindset idea. But focus in on, okay, what are some skills I can develop? But also, strengths or values, what motivates you is worth learning about that. We'll touch on that shortly today. Focus on the impact that you've had from these skills. Everybody has these skills, on CVs. So what impact did you have? So for example, communication, for example. How can you show that you have good communication? How is that measured? I hear what you're saying. So it's a focus on the impact of it and the results, okay? So it's just, okay, from effective communication skills, I was able to, instead of just saying communication skills, okay? Because I've seen a lot of that today, I think on every CV so far. So it's not about removing it, but it's about just focus on the impact of those, okay? So another tip I would recommend is keep a record of impact. While I know that might sound like a big job at first, the problem is we might be in a job for 7 or 8 years, and it is so hard when you come away from that job to try and remember what you did 5 or 6 years ago on a daily basis, right? So this can be the reason that we want to do this, or one way we can do it is think of what did you achieve or accomplish in your job. Is there anything in particular? If you start reflecting on this now, it will be much easier when you're deciding to move on. I've tried to do this from jobs I had, 7 or 8 years ago, and it's much more difficult. Trust me when I say this. And it can be a very simple record. So focus on anything that you achieved. What skills made it a success? So you might have persuaded a customer to buy a product, okay? So what skills help with that? We've got persuasion, we've got active listening, we've got perspective, being able to see the benefit for them. So you've got your accomplishment, and then you've just got a couple of skills. Keep it simple. I'm not asking you to write sentences here. Going back in time. I'd say just start making that list now and keep it up to date. Depending on your memories, you might do it weekly, you might do it monthly. But if you start it now, you'll be grateful when it comes to that next job interview and having to try and update your CV and all of that and go through the interview process. Again, simple is best. A simple word table or on a notepad. Don't make it a big job, because then you won't do it, and then you'll be in the same situation. And think about which of these are transferable. Which skills are you looking to develop? Communication, of course. Persuasion. Being able to persuade people, I would argue, is probably one of the most effective skills in any field. Being able to get people to change is really not easy, but how we can persuade them. Think of a skill that you can use in different jobs. Moving on to point number 3, I'll start going a little bit quicker because I'm conscious of the time. Which skills will prepare you the most? 5 minutes. Okay. If you were to just have a quick guess, top 5 skills from Forbes, LinkedIn, other sources. Do you think communication's one of them? We have talked about it a lot, and it's probably why everyone has it in their CV today. What I did was look through this list, and I just looked for where they had it in different ratings and ranks and surveys. These are the top 5. While I'm not suggesting that you learn all of these, it might be a good idea to start just picking up one of them. And there may be an overlap. So communication skills and generative AI. If you're not familiar with generative AI, ChatGPT, a particular tool that we can use, being able to use that well is being able to communicate well, giving it clear instructions. So you might look at combining a couple of these skills if possible. Where can you develop them? There's a few different places. Start with your current job. Some of you may have access to professional development funding. Some of you may not. But I have been in positions of both. And in the past, where it's not been available, I've suggested what benefits it would have from me doing it. And it might be something like knowledge sharing. If I do a course in persuasion, then I can say, look, I'll share it with the team, especially if you're working in customer service. Focus on the benefit for your employer and how you can help them. Most of them will want you to upskill and stay. It's a benefit for them. You'll be able to do your job better. So give them a reason to. LinkedIn Learning does a lot of free courses. With LinkedIn Learning, I know quite a few workplaces have access to it, but they don't tell you about it. So it would be a good place to just start. Linda was the old name for it, I believe. I wasn't aware that it was free in my job, and most of the staff weren't for about 3 years. All that wasted potential. A lot of institutions pay for that automatically. LinkedIn Premium, you've probably seen that on job searching websites and recruiters. That essentially gives you access to all the courses on there. And you get certificates you can put on your profile as well. And FutureLearn, Coursera, these are also free courses. And I would suggest using ChatGPT from today if you haven't already. And it might be pick one task that you do in your job every day to see if ChatGPT can do it. You don't have to tell people if it can. But it is just a place for you to start, because unfortunately, that's where companies are already looking. How can ChatGPT do what I'm paying these people a lot more money to do? It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. So just in case you're not familiar with ChatGPT, quick 3 basics of how you go about it. Give it a job. So you start by saying you are a hiring manager. You are a copywriter, if you have to write a lot of content. You can say you're an experienced manager. Give it clear instructions. People complain about ChatGPT not being very good, but usually it's because the instructions they give it are not very good. You give somebody bad instructions, they will do bad things, right? So it's just a chance for you to just think, okay, how can I ask this? Imagine you're writing the message to somebody who is 8 years old. That might help, how clear you need to be. And give it feedback. It will give you an answer, but usually the first answer's not the best. And you need to say, okay, make it shorter. It's not very good with word counts. So if you're using it to write cover letters, which a lot of people are nowadays, then you need to tell it, okay, make it shorter. 3 paragraphs. Be more persuasive. Give it orders like you would tell your loved ones, your husbands or your wives. There's just an example of a quick prompt there that can help you in your job search to highlight the skills you need if you're changing career, particularly. Okay, you're a hiring manager. You know you can paste information into it as well. There are limits, so you need to be careful, but you can paste information into it and say, tell me the top 5 skills from here. And then that can be a starting place for you. Okay, I probably have a minute or 2 left. Benefits of networking. I'm going to just shoot over these because of the time. 85% of jobs are filled this way, unfortunately, by people knowing people. This is a statistic from America. So I'm sorry I don't have one for Ireland, but we can assume it's probably going to be kind of high. Maybe not as high, but it's an unfortunate reality. So what can we do? Well, if you're looking to move into a job, there's a very high chance of someone in your network already being in that field. Whether it's a friend, friend of a friend, anyone in a family. So that would be the first place to start. Things like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, these are all free tools with many groups on, particularly for like jobs and communities here in Ireland. If you've ever heard of informational interviewing, okay, you have a meeting with somebody, you want to find out about the job you want to move in, go prepared. Don't just meet up with them and then just say, tell me about your job. It's a very difficult question to answer, and you might not get the answers you need. So you might have a list of 10 questions that you really want to know about the new career if you're going to change into that. And finally, what do we mean by resilience and self-care? I'm just going to give it a quick example of the elastic band. What happens to an elastic band when you stretch it? After you stretch it, what happens? Well, it could fly off. Often it's usually bigger than it is afterwards, right? So think of your resilience and even your skill sets like this, right? We might have a lot of challenges in life, but these all help, and sometimes we improve our skill sets from being in these challenges, even if we don't choose to. But afterwards, we come away more prepared if we're in that situation next time. What happens if you just keep pulling the elastic band? It will eventually break. We all have our breaking points, okay? So that's what we need to remember. So my last bit of advice for the day is what we call protective factors. When we talk about resilience, a lot of people think it means to carry on and never give up. Unfortunately, it's awful advice, because that's why people lead to burnout, right? You've probably heard of burnout and chronic stress. That's where it comes from. I'm not saying give up easily, right? Because that's the fixed mindset. But you need to know your limits at times and when you need to ask for help. So you'll see that there's 8 factors on here. Support and connection. When you're going through a challenge, one of research has shown one of the most important things is to have somebody to support you in any way possible, someone to rely on. When we help others, it actually increases our endorphins, which makes us feel good. So we actually want to help people more. Of course, if you help people too much, then that can also lead to a problem. And I know you've probably seen this advice before: diet, exercise, sleep. There's a reason you see that advice again and again. It is so important. If you don't eat correctly, you won't have the energy to be able to do the things you want to. Same goes for sleep, okay? Exercise, not just physically, it has a lot of mental benefits. You become much clearer minded when you incorporate it. Okay, so just a quick review. Growth mindset, looking at having what impact you've had in your previous jobs, making a list of transferable skills, and AI tools should be on that list by now. If it's not, give it a go. There are lots of YouTube videos that as well can teach you how to use it. Start networking. It sounds like a lot of you enjoy it, so that's not a problem. And look at how you can have the balance of care in your life to help you during challenging times. Okay, so I'm just going to leave my details there. If you have any questions, I'm sorry, I did want to leave a Q&A, but if you have any questions and you weren't able to ask, please connect me, send me a direct message on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to respond. Okay? Lovely to meet you all, and thanks for hanging in there.